First page, and it's the alley, most of the alley.
Edison already queued up the presentation, but I do have it on the thumb drive.
Okay.
I can also wait till like Angel gets here if that's
You
better.
could be here in just a minute. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, what it is, I think it's part of town, how it ends up provided for it.
It's really bad. They all look very like that's why they want to.
Well, we had good luck for us, I was fine. Yeah, simple part of love, but it's short.
That was literally that's.
We actually pioneered.
course, they edit what I call the meeting to order. It is 13:34 on the clock on the wall, so that will be our start time. The first item in the business is the roll call. Eric Bogdan. Kate Simon.
Aye.
Stephen Booth. Kent Brown told us he would not be present. Eric Barnsdale. I am here. John Turnipseed.
Here.
Peter Oliver.
Here.
And Mike Wardle.
Here.
Welcome all. Next item is the minutes of the October 2025 meeting. Chair would entertain a motion to approve and comments or questions or whatever the case may be.
Mr. Chair, I read them and found no changes necessary, so I would move approval.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second by Mr. Booth. Any other discussion, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item is the impact fee / capital improvement plan update. I will just ask, who's going to do this?
I'll get us started.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you all. Thank you, committee, for having us again. Certainly has been a long journey so far to get to this point, but we're very excited to get ready for the last piece of the puzzle for this update. We, as you remember, back in October, we presented the committee an update based on the public outreach that we conducted back in September and October, and then talked about changes to the draft plan and based on the feedback we received, also based on the feedback that the committee provided, we did several updates to the draft plan, which at this point reduced the impact fee that was calculated originally presented back in September. And in addition, a couple of refinements towards the project list that will go out this upcoming week. We think on Wednesday, we're planning to release the draft plan for public review in preparation for the adoption hearing on December 3rd.
This Wednesday or a week from Wednesday?
This Wednesday.
This Wednesday, okay.
Yes. So our goal through this meeting is give you an overview of what those changes represent within the plan. Give you an update on what the draft impact fee schedule will be on those land use items that we have consistently shown you in the past, and talk through the next steps in the process. Our goal is to also discuss and present the direction the commission gave staff for this adoption hearing, which we're going to talk briefly as we get into the presentation here in a second. But yeah, that's pretty much today's purpose of today's presentation. And if there's no any other questions, I'll give the time to Sonia.
Any questions, anyone?
Chair Edmondson, do we know what the revised draft will contain on Wednesday when it's out?
Yes. So
Are we going to see that today
Yeah.
or?
Yeah.
yeah, an overview of that.
Okay.
Yeah. We won't see because the content is about the same. The difference mostly is the project list, the impact fee schedule. So those are the things that we're going to tackle today as part of this update.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay, this presentation that we'll walk through is very similar to what the commission saw last Wednesday. We do have a few updates based on the commission's direction to us from Wednesday though as well. And yeah, the purpose here, the hope is that we'll be sharing sort of the key highlights about the draft plan that will be going out later this week, as Edmondson said. Won't spend a lot of time on this slide, but really just let you know that we've been spending a lot of time in sort of these last three steps, the project costs, traffic impact fee development, and then the resultant CIP document, doing a lot of refinements to those based on the public comment that was received, kind of from between the end of September and mid-October. The questions and comments that this group provided us in our last meeting in October, and then the direction that we received from the commission last week. So continuing to make refinements as we go and as we get towards hopefully an adoption draft coming up. I think we've talked about most of these in our last meeting, but do just want to highlight for you the outreach and engagement as part of this plan has been ongoing. Even after the public comment period closed in mid-October. I know we had a meeting after that. Last week, there was a commission meeting as well as a meeting with the ACHD Commercial Developer Advisory Committee. And then again, we're meeting with this group today to go through these refinements and provide an update. We'll go over a summary of the key themes from the input and comment period that we received. So we feel it was a very successful comment period. ACHD received input from probably more parties, and that included the development community, their partner agencies, the cities in Ada County, as well as the general public. Probably more groups and more input than that is common for the CIP. So for us, that's a sign of a successful outreach period. We want to receive those comments. And those comments were very helpful as we go through this refinement process. Some of the key themes that we heard, I think from all parties, there was an understanding that traffic impact fees are helpful. They're helpful for ACHD. They're helpful for implementing projects that the public and the partner agencies want to see. And they are also helpful for the development community. They provide a way where development can pay a share of improvements without necessarily having to shoulder the entire burden of the sort of the last straw to break the camel's back has to then go and do a complete roadway project. So it was good to see that recognition from all parties. There were a lot of comments about the significant increases to fees with this update. I think there was comments on that both on the positive side, sort of a recognition that it has been some time since ACHD increased impact fees to any significant level, and the fees have not kept pace with the cost of doing projects. But then there were also comments from the standpoint that this was a very significant increase all at once. And we even heard this from the commission last week, that there was comment hoping that ACHD keeps better pace in the future with if there are going to be increases, to do that incrementally over time, as opposed to sort of a wholesale update, once every 10 years type of thing. There was quite a few comments on the topic of service area that I know we've discussed as a committee extensively. And that feedback was also mixed. There were people who supported this idea of moving to a 2 service area model, which was the public draft that went out. And then there was also public comment, I would say, from the development community, and Mike and Peter chime in here if you want to add anything, but from the development community, there was definitely feedback that a single service area model was preferred, which I know is consistent with, I guess, how the majority of this group has voted in the past. And there was split feedback amongst partner agencies. Some partner agencies, that the partner land use agencies, wanted to stay with the single service area model. And other feedback we received from partner agencies supported the 2 service area model. So that feedback was definitely mixed. In the general public, there was comments expressing a desire to expand the type of projects that could be funded by impact fees. People asking, could impact fees go towards more maintenance projects or bike and ped projects, that sort of thing. And I know we as a group have talked a lot about what is in the Development Impact Fee Act and what is allowable, and the fact that those types of projects are not currently allowable, but there was, I think, some public desire to see maybe if that could be modified in the future. And then finally, we received some specific comments about refining the roadway and intersection project lists. So we'll get into sharing a little bit more about that. So I don't know, Edison or Megan, anything else you wanted to add on the public and community comment overview?
Well, we are very grateful with all the feedback we received from both public, stakeholders, the partner agencies, and obviously the CCDC. All the feedback has been very valuable throughout the entire process. And the commission, this is what they wanted to look at this point, see that what would come from each of the agencies to take a decision later on as we enter into the adoption hearing. One thing we didn't mention as part of the increase of the impact fees, that certainly was it was discussed as part of the letters from, especially from the developer community, was regarding the addition of the existing travel lane into the impact fee eligibility components of the CIP. That was an item that was, as part of that feedback, we went into a more deeper conversation internally to discuss it with the general team, or all the team inside ACHD, and based on the legal feedback we received, even though it's still within the law that ACHD can include the additional existing travel lane into the as an impact fee eligibility. At this point, we wanted to be a little bit more conservative with respect to adding it at this point, considering the feedback we received from the community, the historical the historical stance of ACHD into adding that, and also the in between, the gray line that it walks within, like existing deficiencies, and also what is considered existing deficiency versus what's considered existing travel lane. So ACHD wanted to be a little bit conservative at this point, considering that it will be an opportunity to explore it even further in future updates if needed. But at this point, we are removing that component from this update.
Yep, and that was the direction provided by the commission to do. And so we have updated numbers to share with you about, along with the project and project cost refinements, including that refinement, how that would translate into the latest impact fee eligible costs and traffic impact fees. Yep, thanks for highlighting that. I forgot to mention that.
Sonia,
Yes.
so the position of the commission at the last meeting was to take that out. What was the position of the consultants prior to the decision?
So
Or if did they have a position?
we are not the decision maker,
I
obviously, as
understand.
a consultant.
Neither are we.
We provided a recommendation that is something based on our independent. We also have an attorney, a land use transportation attorney on our team, based on their independent review and based on what we saw from other agencies within the state of Idaho and what they're doing. We felt that was a legally feasible option for ACHD to consider that would help them have their impact fees reflect the true cost of implementing the project. We said that is something you may want to consider, and we feel it's legal for you to do so if you wanted to, but we present that as a recommendation, and it's up for the decision makers to decide if it's.
Y'all recommend to put it in or take it out?
We recommended that that's something they should consider doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was staff's position? Or did staff take a position?
It's our position is following the recommendation of our legal staff at this point. We since they're the ones that ultimately will defend ACHD on this type of litigations it comes through. Certainly, we still believe that it is something that can be evaluated in the future, without a doubt. So as time goes on and there's more, there's precedents outside the agency, for example, other agencies within Idaho that continues to apply this metric, because that's why we reevaluated this component this time around, because there's other cities within the state of Idaho that actually include the existing travel lane. So we felt that it was worth exploring and having that conversation at all levels within ACHD, but at this point, possibly there's a lot of other variables that are applied, including the increase of the impact fee that might feel like a too big of a jump to really consider at this point.
So staff's position was don't do it now. Okay, I hate to have to push, but I'm just
Yeah, absolutely.
trying to get the information.
And
Yes,
I
yeah.
think we wanted to be responsive to the comments received through the public comment period and recognize that, you know, there is a balance between how much do these project costs and updating that accordingly, and then what is palatable and reasonable for ACHD to move forward. But there's a balancing act there. So.
Okay, well, thank y'all. Any questions on that from any of the members? Okay, moving on.
Great questions. So let's talk a little bit more in specifics about some of the refinements that we've completed since that public draft went out. So the first thing we did was receive public comment on some of the projects that are in the plan. And as you all are very aware, this project's been going on for quite some time now. And I think some of the data that we were using was maybe a little bit dated by the time we've gotten to this point. And we actually found that there were 4 projects, 1 roadway project and 3 intersection projects that have actually been completed or are nearing completion at this point that weren't in that position when we started this process. And so we felt it was very reasonable and made a lot of sense to take those 4 projects out of the CIP at this point, given they are actually even completed now or are very close to completion. So I'll share what those specific projects were when we get to the project maps, but that was the first step that we took in our refinement.
You added those into what you already had,
We added those in as existing projects, given that they were completed.
to what you had already used to create numbers previous.
Yes, well, we took them out of the numbers. Because those projects are essentially complete, we didn't feel it was appropriate to include their construction costs and right-of-way costs in as impact fee eligible, given that they were already completed.
But they were the latest projects to have numbers on, correct? Have real numbers on.
We have, yes, so, but that's not exactly what I'm talking about. So when we talk about our CIP project list,
Yeah.
what we are developing is a list of future projects that future growth is necessitating be needed to accommodate that growth. And then we develop costs associated with them. Given the fact that those projects are already in the ground today, we didn't feel it's appropriate to include them as future.
So you just took them out of the list.
We took them out of the list.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was totally misunderstanding what you were saying.
I appreciate that you clarified that, but we took them out of the list.
Okay,
Another clarification, I think this is a result of a multi-year projects in many cases happen. We started this analysis in the 2 years ago.
Yeah.
When we started
Year and a
developing the project list, everything said and done. And our hope was to adopt sooner than what we are currently at right now. So certainly that's some of the impact that had why this project ended up in that list, and that we, one way or another, forgot at the very beginning that they were happening. So right now, they pointed out, Brighton pointed out some of those projects that we needed to evaluate. So out of that, we did a more thorough review of which are from the project list to determine which has been actually during construction and actually reaching the point of being completed. So we just corrected an error that we had in that project list.
okay.
But I do want to highlight, it was only 4 projects, so we do still have a very robust list of both roadway and intersection projects as part of this plan. The next step of refinement was actually looking at how we calculated the cost of projects that are still remaining in our list. And we felt there were a few refinements that could be done to that project cost calculation as well. So the first was we became aware of some of the cost of right-of-way that we had in our list. That right-of-way had been purchased in a few locations already recently by ACHD. So we took that cost out of our project cost calculations because it's already purchased right-of-way. The second thing we did is move some of our intersection projects and apply them as right-of-way preservation only, the same way we had done to roadway projects. You remember we went through a screening exercise with roadway projects previously, and some of those roadway projects that were not deemed as needed until 2040 or beyond, we moved them into a separate category called right-of-way preservation only, where we kept the right-of-way costs in the plan, but we did not include construction costs in the plan. We had not done that for any intersection projects. So all of the intersection projects were fully costed in the plan. We took at some of those, again, those projects that were not needed until sort of 2040 and beyond at the intersection level, and move those also into right-of-way preservation only. So ACHD has them in the plan to obtain right-of-way, but we don't include the construction cost in there. So that was another adjustment. We also looked at the inflation factors that we had applied to project costs in that right-of-way preservation only category. Because those right-of-way preservation only projects were so far in the future, they had a 15 to 20-year inflationary factors adjusted to them. So they basically we took the project costs and almost doubled it to account for inflation because they were so far out in the future. And we looked at that and, through further refinement, decided that is probably an overly conservative approach because not all of that right-of-way will be purchased 15 or 20 years in the future. Essentially, right-of-way gets purchased by ACHD when redevelopment happens, and it's sort of piecemeal over the years. And so we felt that was a pretty overly conservative approach. And so we backed out some of those inflation factors to be more realistic and reasonable of how ACHD actually purchases right-of-way. And then the fourth step we took in the project cost refinement was to look at some of the corridors where we have again deemed for right-of-way preservation only and applied a factor for their redevelopment. Because right-of-way would only be purchased when that corridor or those parcels redeveloped, if some of those corridors had been recently developed and the likelihood of them redeveloping again within the next 10 years or so was fairly low, we applied a factor to represent that and reduce the cost accordingly. So those were the refinements that we took, and happy to pause again to see if there's any more detailed questions about those steps or concerns with any of those steps.
Question.
Great. Yes.
First of all, I'm really glad to hear what you did with regards to project cost calculation. I don't have anything for us to be considering adding today,
okay.
But for the future, like next year, I would like to do even a real deep dive into how project costs are calculated. I don't think we need to do that now.
Yep.
And we could maybe take one project
Example.
as an example, kind of show the planning that went into that, how that number was arrived at and then the actual afterwards as to estimate versus actual, I would find that to be very valuable.
Okay.
So if that could be something maybe as for our next term to work on, I would like to see that happen.
Great. Okay, so moving on, I did just want to highlight those 4 projects that we took off the list, just so you're aware of which ones they were. So the first one is Locust Grove, in this section of just north of or between Lake Hazel and then to the south. That is a roadway that we had identified in the plan previously as a 5-lane widening. The reason we took it off is because that's the majority of that section was just recently built to 3 lanes. And most of the mile segment in between Lake Hazel and down to the south has been developed currently, or is at least platted. And so the likelihood of that project going to 5 lanes, between now and the next CIP update is very, very slim because it's just been completed. So we felt it was reasonable to take that project off. Okay. And then moving to the intersection projects, there were 3 intersection projects that we removed off the list. And you can see those here. I'm probably going to get the names wrong because I didn't bring my list with me. One is Black Cat and Ustick. One is, I don't know, Matthew, if you can help. 10 Mile and Amity, thank you. And then the other one is Lake Hazel and Locust Grove. Thank you. And those are three projects. Again, they're either nearing completion of construction or have already been completed for construction with new updated intersection treatments, either signals or roundabouts. So we felt those, again, were reasonable projects to take out of this CIP list. Okay. This is just a quick reminder. I do want to hit on this committee's previous recommendations on 2 key topics, as well as share the ACHD Commission's recommendation. So as a reminder, on the topic of service area, you as a committee have made motions and voted twice on that topic. Once in June, and then once just at the most recent meeting on October 28th. And both of those votes went 4-3 in favor of recommending a single service area to the commission. On the topic of including the full pavement reconstruction costs, including the reconstruction of existing lanes as impact fee eligible, you as a committee voted in June 7-0 in favor of including those as impact fee eligible costs. And then there was a lot of discussion about that at the last meeting, but no additional no additional vote went forward on changing that previous recommendation. And then this is really just highlighting again, I think what Edinson previously said, but wanted to give you the latest hot off the press update on the commission's direction to us as a project team. So on the topic of service area, last week, they provided us direction to move forward with releasing 2 versions of the CIP in this adoption draft for public review. So they wanted a full CIP package and ordinance showing 2 service areas, and then also releasing a full CIP document and ordinance as a single service area. And what this really allows the commission to do then is between now and the adoption hearing coming up is to get additional comment from the development community, from the public, from their partner agencies on which one they would like to see. And it lets them on December 3rd vote in either direction, depending on which way they feel they want to go based on the latest input and comment at that time. So that was their direction last week.
Streamline the process a little.
Streamline the process in case for some reason they release a public draft with one option and they get to their negotiations and deliberations on the night and decide they want to go with the other direction. We don't have to go back out with an additional noticing. And then on the full pavement cost, Edinson already mentioned this, but based on the public comment received, they wanted to remain consistent with their current adopted methodology and apply a reduction factor so that there is a slight reduction accounting for any existing travel lanes at this time. And that was again based on the public feedback from the development community. It was based on their ACHD legal staffs wanting to be a bit more conservative at this time. But they did want to note that that's something they would like to consider in a future update of the CIP. And I believe the director told them in the meeting, if that is something they want to consider in the future, they could do so at any time. They wouldn't have to wait 4 years until the next update. So with all of these, I know this is really the punchline that you're like, Sonia, hurry up and get to the punchline, please. That changed our impact fee eligible costs from a previous number of 1.64 billion. And that was what went out in the public draft in September and October. That is now, with all those refinements and changes, including accounting for a reduction for the existing travel lanes, that goes down to 1.22 billion of impact fee eligible costs in this current draft. So a pretty sizable reduction from where we were before. I think it's a very reasonable reduction. The changes we made were very reasonable based on the latest and greatest information related to projects, right-of-way purchases, and other adjustments. So that's where we are with that. And then in terms of impact fees, where does that?
Back up one
Oh,
slide.
yes, absolutely.
I'm not checking your math, I'm trying
No,
to understand.
You're good.
So there's a 25% reduction.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
It's a 20 to 25% reduction. Exactly. Yep. And I will say about 20% of that reduction was from the project and project cost refinements that we went through. And then an additional 5% to get us to the 25% reduction was from no longer applying a factor to account for existing travel lanes. And so here is where then we end up with the adjusted traffic impact fees based on these refinements. So, whoops. I think I'll just pick an easy number to look at, which is assuming we stay with a single service area, what is the traffic impact fee for a single family home? So in the previous version, although we didn't have a single service area in the previous version, but if we had, it would have been about $7,800 or $7,843 to be specific. And we would compare that now to if the commission moves forward with a single service area model, that new fee with all these adjustments applied would be $5,804. And for context, that fee today is $3,494. So it's about an 80% increase over what today's fee is compared to something that was kind of well over 100% increase before. And then we've got some other very common land uses up here that tend to come in most frequently to ACHD. So we've got the multifamily housing fee, We've got an office fee, and then we've got a sort of general retail shopping center fee there for you. And, you know, still breaking it out with if you have 2 service areas versus a single service area. So I know there's a lot of numbers on this screen, but happy to answer any questions or take any input that the committee has on these.
Committee members. Oh, y'all, I'm looking at you are still awake. There's gotta be a question
Oh,
in your mic, please.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I've followed this very closely. I went to the commission meeting last week and I'm pleased with the direction that they've headed and the refinements made. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays.
Okay. Great. Okay. Anyone else? Carry on.
Okay. So the only thing we'd like to highlight for this committee, and then obviously we would love to get any additional recommendations you would like to make to the commission. But let's talk about where we go from here. So we are in the process. The reason Mark isn't here today is because he's back at the office, busy finalizing 2 complete CIP packages for the public adoption notification and comment period. So that will be sent out, as Edison said, on Wednesday. And we'll have 2 packages, one with 2 service areas and one with a single service area. Those will be released on Wednesday. And so they'll be released for public comment, public noticing. And then there will be a public comment period from November 12th all the way up into December 3rd, when the commission will have their public adoption hearing. They will also take public comment at that hearing as well. I believe, Edison, you said you confirmed that's a noon meeting on December 3rd. So committee's welcome to come to testify and provide public comment at that meeting as well. And we'll see if the commission is ready to adopt one of those 2 packages at that time, or if they can have some minor refinements to it, I believe, Megan, nothing substantial, but if there's some minor tweaks or refinements, they can make those before we finalize it into a final plan, and they could still adopt it that day.
Yeah, that's correct. And then if there were any major decisions that they want to make, we would probably end up having to reissue a public hearing notice and have a new public hearing. So we're hoping with the release of the 2 packages that they have enough leeway to make some refinements if there are still some that need to be made, but move forward with this process, as we have been working on this now for over 2 years, and we're ready to get something finalized. And then just, I don't remember if we have this on other slides, so hopefully I'm not jumping. Okay.
We don't, yeah.
The last important piece of information here is that if they do adopt on December 3rd, we will not begin collecting these new fees until March 1st. So we want to give some time there if there are any projects where impact fees have been assessed by our team, because we do have some lag time between when an assessment goes out and sometimes when it's paid. It'll give the developers an opportunity to go in and get their payments in under the old fee structure. It will also give us time to work with the cities on changes if we were to go to a 2 service area model. They do use our Track It system, which is the electronic system for the fees. They log in and collect fees on our behalf, some of the cities. So we'll need to get them trained, get everything updated in Track It, and make sure that they can implement those 2 service areas if that's the direction that we go. So having that buffer time will allow for those pieces to happen as seamlessly as possible.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Beyond what we've talked about here, be a quick question more for Megan probably. There was discussion by the commission, 1 or 2 of them very specifically, that the process needs to be changed so that instead of the 5-year leap potential, that there would be more of an incremental opportunity annually. Wouldn't have to go through this the intensity of this process, but by doing it on a more annual basis, we could get some of these increases in place so that it doesn't happen with the magnitude of what we've gone through here. So is that likely to happen? Does that require a policy change? What has to occur?
In the impact fee ordinance, we do have the ability of annual adjustments to be made to whatever impact fee we adopt. So that would be if we have unusually high inflation or significant shifts to construction like we have seen in the past few years. We've had kind of unprecedented annual increases that have happened with the pandemic and the other factors that we've been dealing with here. So we do already have that in the ordinance, and they, on an annual basis, they can choose to make adjustments to the impact fee. And then anything beyond that, really, it's too early to know what that might look like. If this committee has any suggestions or recommendations, we can absolutely pass those on to the commission and help them as they're formulating what they mean when they say that, you know, how they'd like to try to tackle that in the future. But we do have the opportunity for inflation adjustments if the need arises. And that would just be in a more than typical shift from year to year, because Kittleson has already included inflation factors to handle kind of the average annual inflation.
Could they go to annually looking at what costs have been bid and built?
Yep.
And then rolling that forward into the next year's thing? Because this, Sonia, has a fair amount of what we think inflation is going to be built
Correct.
into it, as opposed to what the costs actually are.
Yeah, and with accordance with the impact fee law, we have to update impact fees at least every 5 years, but there's nothing saying they couldn't look at it more frequently. Historically, we have done, like right now, we're on an interim update, the 246A, our current ordinance, that was an interim update to the previous ordinance 246. So we have seen that in the past, that we've done updates more frequently if we've needed to, but there's nothing preventing us from being even more proactive with that, should the commission desire that.
I think I do agree though with Mike. You know, obviously the commission who will be adopting this plan is very different than the commission who adopted even the last interim update and definitely the previous full update. And there was definitely recognition that was said last week about the need to make sure we're keeping current with everything. And this has been a very extraordinary time. I fully agree with what Megan said. So I think no matter what you did, this was going to be a pretty significant update, but wanting to make sure ACHD doesn't let things get behind too much in the future. And also doesn't want to lead to surprises like this or significant updates in the future.
Like you had something?
No, okay. She answered it.
All right. Is this the place for me to ask, how many of your partner agencies did written comments to the commission?
There were 3 letters,
Yes.
one from the city of Boise, one from the city of Meridian, and one from the city of Cuna.
Okay.
So there were 3 letters, 2 in favor of 2 service area,
One service
one
area.
service area, sorry, and what?
Yeah.
2 in favor of 2
City of
service.
Boise was
Go
in
ahead.
favor of 2 service areas. City
Yeah, I
of
know.
Meridian was in favor of 1 service area, and City of Cuna did include more discussion of both sides. But I believe with how they wrapped up the letter that they landed at favoring 1 service area. And we didn't get formal input from the other land use agencies.
Mr. Chairman, I read
One
them all.
more, is there still time for those that haven't already to do so?
Yes, yeah, we are accepting all comments up until the public hearing adoption. So that can be land use agencies, that can be individuals, the development community, you as members of the committee, we're going to republish all of the letters and website comments and everything that we had in our staff report for this last commission meeting. We'll republish all of those, and then if we receive anything additional, we'll add it to that list so that the commission can see all of the comment that has come in.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, for the commission meeting, Brianne had sent, we had included all of us, and in their packet, it had all of that information. It was quite interesting. It was some very thoughtful discussion and comments by partner agencies as well as individuals and so forth. So I would encourage people to take a look at that.
And even though the other partner agencies did not submit a letter as of today, they all did receive a very detailed presentation to their elected officials. ACHD went around to every partner land use agency. So I think those had a lot of questions. I think the elected officials were sort of getting familiar with what all these changes meant and what the differences were. So I would expect probably more letters coming now that they're seeing this.
Yeah, we look forward to that. If there's any more comment, as Sonia said, as of today, we don't know of anyone else that's gonna submit. But if you want to encourage those that you represent, we'd love to have their voice heard formally as well.
Moving on.
This is what we have today. So just wanted to give you an update on those next steps. I think if there is anything else formally that this committee wants to include in this next comment period or package, this would probably be a good time to discuss that. I will say all of your meeting minutes were included to the commission based on the direction you all provided last meeting. So they had all of those as well. But if there's anything else you as a committee want to provide to the commission, now would be a great time to discuss it. But this is all we had for today on our side.
Okay, apparently not.
Mr. Chair, I think that this is a pretty common practice for ACHD. I would invite anyone to the public hearing on December 3rd, Mr. Chair, if you would like to attend and provide your testimony regarding this whole process. You're more than welcome to do so, and we'll be happy to have you as part of that meeting, so as the voice of the CICAC or so. So I would just encourage for the committee to participate on that last piece of the process that we're gonna follow before starting all over again next year.
Don't start all over.
Yeah.
It's, what strike me is, you may not agree, but it's fairly simple to update project costs on an annual basis. You've got it all in the computers. You know all the elements, you know what it did, you know that. You know, are prices doing this? Are they doing this? Are they slightly coming down? You know, it's math.
And through the 5-year plan process, that is done on an annual basis as well. So we have that. We work closely with the 5-year plan. So we have that to inform us as well.
Okay, next. Anything?
Nothing on this agenda item, no.
Anyone? Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Challenge.
okay, CIP projects. Who's gonna take that?
Yep, so, yeah, I think you would share. So this item was brought up for this meeting because last time Mr. Steve wanted to talk about the CIP projects and have a discussion regarding the current draft of that list, so.
That's true. I was one who brought it up, and we may not need to spend much time on it, but I just wanted to see, I have a few comments that are Eagle specific and then one that's actually more for the entire ACHD portfolio. But I did bring it up is just whether or not we as a committee wanted to have an opportunity to weigh in on any specific projects or not. We've done that in the past and maybe we don't, and that's okay.
It is before us now. Do you need any of the hard to read graphs, charts and things to talk about anything?
I do not.
Wasn't very nice, was it?
But they are. So I'm happy
And
to,
I appreciate the ACHD printing costs that gave us
Yeah.
the large spreadsheets. Okay, yes, sir.
So
You have the floor.
thank you. I'm happy to keep this very brief, but so specifically to Eagle, that I want to highlight, and I'll try to keep it fast because it probably isn't relevant to the rest of you, although each city I'm sure has your specific needs and concerns, but ours is our growth to the north. And so the north-south corridors that are on Highway 16 to the west and 55 to the east, which would primarily be ITD, I understand that. So inside of more the ACHD purview and City of Eagle are Linda Road and Eagle, and their growth and development to the north. And I would ask that perhaps in the coming year that some additional energy planning, resource, et cetera, be put into the growth that we're going to experience to our north. And it may even, it may even connect to areas outside of Ada County. And so that may be a little bit unusual for ACHD. I don't know how that's happened in the past, where you have connectivity occurring outside of Ada County, and yet it affects arterials inside of Ada County. But so that would be my my request from a specific standpoint is just as I looked at the map, it just looked like no activity to the north of Floating Feather. And obviously that's going to be very important for us strategically for the next 20 years and beyond. And so that's my one specific ask is just real focus to our north. And then something that I think is bigger than just the City of Eagle, and this is my personal view, but I had a chance to go to the construction kickoff for the Linda Road project that is going on between 44 and Floating Feather. That was last week, and it was very well attended meeting. ACHD conducted the meeting. I thought overall in a very impressive manner. But there's a lot of energy in that room. Mostly positive, but a lot of very pointed questions. And here's the one thing that I think was new, and this again, I'm speaking personally, but what I heard in the room, and that is to include Idaho Power in the discussion. A question was brought up in that session last week, and I certainly was near and dear to my heart, which was, while you're doing this big new refresh, how about consider putting power and other utilities underground? And I'm guessing that's been thought of before, but Idaho Power, it would have been good to have them in the room to be able to address that. Because really all it was said was, well, that's Idaho Power's thing. They're not here. We really don't have a whole lot to say about it. And I'd like to see that kind of change in the future. I think Idaho Power is, on many of these projects, a player. And personally, I'd like to see more underground utilities occur. I recognize that would increase cost, but I think over the long term, it actually cost and stabilize costs, but something to be more actively discussed. Yeah,
Similar to any other utility, they are in the room.
Pardon me?
We coordinate with all of the utilities when we're designing the project as well. So they're included very early on. And relocation of the especially like the power, that isn't something ACHD pays for. Idaho Power, we do that in coordination with them. Because they are that provider, they have the ultimate authority of how it's being relocated and what type, whether it be poles or whether it be underground.
Okay.
If it is something that they wanted to do, we would certainly coordinate through our project for them to do that. It's just not something that we have any jurisdiction over. It's kind of like this, the sewer or water. We work with them on if they're ready for an upgrade on their services, we work with them, and that happens while our project's happening. But ultimately that cost is borne by them and their decision if that's something that they're wanting to do. But no, they are included very early in the process when we're designing the project. So when we're going to the public, those conversations have already happened or are still currently happening. But them coming to like those meetings, I think that is really great feedback that we can share with our projects team and with the supervisors over there, that maybe that's something they should consider with a big project like that, and they can maybe speak to that at those meetings. Yeah,
Thank
you're welcome.
Let me ask a question about what you just said.
Yes, sir.
Houston,
Yes,
10 mile to Black Cat.
yes.
Idaho Power moved 4 to 6 huge transmission line poles.
Yep.
Who paid for that?
ITD did. Or, sorry, not ITD. Idaho Power. It's been a long weekend, sir.
Idaho Power paid.
Yeah.
Interesting, because I asked the question of an ACHD employee and not
They said
somebody.
ACHD paid for it?
Mhm.
Oh.
And I'm not saying they're right or wrong, because my contention was that power lines in the right of way that need to be moved because the pavement's expanding or whatever belongs to the power company.
Yeah.
So I was quite surprised to be told that ACHD moved those things. I don't know.
We will,
$500,000 a piece or more.
yeah, we will move them with our project, meaning that it's part of the construction of the project.
Correct.
It's similar to like sewer, when
Yeah.
we expand a sewer system for a city jurisdiction.
Send the power company a bill and expect you to
Correct.
check. Aside from all of this, if you would check on that, and let me know, I'd love to get it clarified. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
back to kind of Steve's line of thought there. Probably before you got involved here, but there's the segment between Chinden and 44 is really a bigger bottleneck than the area north of 44.
Correct.
But that whole thing is in the process of planning and design and so forth. I just don't remember what the projection was for construction, so perhaps.
That one is, we have one of the phases, so it's gonna have to be done in 3 phases is what it's currently slated to go, because it's a very large project. And with river crossings, those are big ticket item. So we have it listed as 3 different phases for the Chinden Estate project. This year we are doing design, we're starting that design, and we're gonna get to like a 30% design on the entire corridor. And what comes out of that will be a recommendation as to which phase we go with first. We do have budgeted dollars in the 5-year plan for one of those phases, just so we can kind of earmark that and say, we know we're gonna go with one of them. Originally, through the concept study that we did on that same corridor years ago, the original recommendation was to do the middle phase first. And that's how it's currently in the 5-year plan, is for the middle to go first, but that's just to kind of earmark funds. And then when we get done with the design, a recommendation will come out of that as to which phase to go with first, and then we'll schedule them based on that. So I think we have it in either 29 or 30 for construction of the middle phase.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my purpose was just simply to note that there's a lot of information out there and
Yeah.
available to understand, what's coming that doesn't show up in this process right now.
Yes, oh, 100%.
Generally, why the middle phase? Is it to make people remember how good Chinden was? I mean, 2 to 3 to 4 to 2 to 3 to 4?
I'm not sure why the recommendation came out for the middle. Maybe it was to get the bridge done first so that the rest of it could go a lot quicker. I'm not sure why they
So
recommended the
if,
middle.
if you pull a rope, you pretty much move it from one end to wherever you're going.
Yeah,
All right.
so it could be traffic, we'll know for
You
sure.
don't cut it up in pieces and block
Yeah.
it along.
And that doesn't mean that we couldn't accelerate at some point. Like the result may be not 3 phases, but 2 phases, or whatever the case may be. So we'll know more after this initial design gets done. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Steve, thank you for the comments regarding the growth in the north side of Eagle Road. Certainly, that's something that ties into something that Megan and I have been discussing regarding the possibility of inviting other agencies that go more deep dive into the demographic portion of things, especially Compass, so they can present some of their work that they do through the CIM process and how they coordinate with the cities to inform their demographic calculation and allocation into the future. I think that's something that as time goes on would be beneficial for the CIC to look at early on, since those are sometimes conversations that happen 2 or 3 years before even we start the CIP process.
Yeah.
So I think that piece of information would be beneficial for the committee members to know even before next update.
I agree. Thank you.
Are you suggesting that an agenda item in a future meeting of this group would be for Compass to explain who they are, what they are, and why they are
And their process.
in their process?
Yes.
Mr. Booth, anything
I
else?
would agree. No, that's it. Thank you.
Anyone else with other comments on the CIP projects besides me? I have the same two I've had. One is I still can't understand why Macmillan is not programmed to be widened between Star and Canada. It's like yours. I cannot believe that Nampa and Canyon County are not going to let anything build on the other side of Canada as Macmillan tees into it. And then even more so, Overland should be looked at and planned west of 10 Mile. That's one that I just can't believe would not turn into an arterial going all the way over to the airport, Nampa Airport and so forth. So, and that's currently, I think, just a dotted line when I remember. So.
Well, that
Those-
dotted line does mean we're accounting for the Overland extension as a CIP project in this plan, at least to the
But-
county line where ACHD obviously has jurisdiction.
Right, yeah, that's where they stop.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it talked about to what width.
That one. It's green. We have it as a new 3-lane roadway for
No.
that, yes. And
Trust me,
5.
please look at it. If you change anything. I know.
In the master number 5?
I think it is green.
Okay.
I think so. I need to double check that. But
And Macmillan per ACHD policy is a 3-lane. You
yes.
know that.
Mhm.
But the city of Meridian has asked and ACHD, to my memory, has agreed to look at 5-lane right of way
Sure.
when and if things go to develop along it in terms of maybe someday it would need to be. That's all I've got. Anyone have anything else on the CIP?
Oh, just wanted to clarify. Yeah, the Overland Road. Yeah, absolutely. That came from a study that was done. I think it's called Airport Road / Overlands Extension.
May have been done before
Yeah.
16
Exactly.
came south to the interstate, and just talk started in Nampa about carrying something south of the interstate that ties directly into 16 to the north.
Turn.
It's wonderful stuff. I mean, just plan all kind of stuff and just spend money like crazy.
I would just say, we already touched on this some, but as we are hopefully moving forward on adopting the CIP, and we can shift the focus of our future meetings once we get to that point to other topics, like the compass, if there are things that you individually or collectively think of that would have helped inform your decisions throughout this process. If you can brainstorm on that and let us know, and we can add informational meetings to help with that as they come up over this next period of time while we're in between updates. So if you'd please think about that, and we're happy to ask people to come attend, bring other staff in, whatever it is that we can do to just help with the usefulness of the time that we spend in this committee for each of you.
Yeah, and you had the suggestion earlier about the estimating process
Yeah,
versus the reality when it hit the ground.
yeah, so we've written that one down, and then Edenson's suggestion of having Compass come to present at a meeting, so over time, as you think of anything else, please let us know, let Brianne know, and we can program things like that onto upcoming agendas. I think that's all we have.
Well, thank you, committee, for having us. Really, we enjoyed the process. We enjoy all our conversation with all of you. So thank you for all your great feedback you gave us throughout the entire CIP process.
So what are the plans for CICAC? Are we done for the year or?
At this time, there's no meeting scheduled. We're
Yeah.
not required to meet
By-
at some, but,
We have to meet at least annually.
okay, so it's not a quarterly requirement.
Not a quarterly requirement by law. As a committee, if you feel like you might stay more engaged with quarterly meetings, if you'd like biannual meetings, whatever time frame you want, but we do need to meet at least once per year to review the land use assumptions, and I believe the expenditure of impact fees are the things that by law we should review on an annual basis.
And we may end up coming back in January, February to talk about, regardless of what everybody's done, here's how it ended up.
Yeah, we could absolutely do that, do kind of a wrap up.
Yeah.
And discuss how we're transitioning into the new ordinance when it's effective.
Okay?
Yeah.
Anything
It
else?
is, quarterly by our bylaws. Yeah, so by the impact fee law, we have to meet annually. Brianne checked our bylaws, we do need to meet quarterly for the CICAC bylaws. Thank you, Brianne.
So we will be at least quarterly. Anything else from anyone? We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.